For the purpose of this webinar, we configured one simple travel product with 2 different countries to show you a few examples of the depth of configuration that we can reach and how it enables us to meet country-specific regulations and business needs. And Romuald mentioned overrides. So the way that we build this is that we made a configuration for France here. I'm French, so I took France because I'm quite proud. And then we added an override for a UK country. So what am I showing now? What you can see on the screen is an interface through which I'm going to interact with the Qover API. So it's connected to our sandbox environment. You can see in the URL here that it's sandbox.qover, and it's using a travel configuration. And we are showing a policy quote endpoint. So this is the endpoint required to generate a quote. So travel insurance, think of, for example, Air France. You are a customer on the Air France website. You are going to be exposed to insurance as you purchase your flight tickets. You're going to be exposed to a price, and you are going to be able to then purchase this insurance contract alongside your flight tickets. And basically what I'm showing here is what's happening in the background when you are undertaking those actions. On the right-hand side is the request payload. So this is information that Air France, hypothetically speaking, of course, Air France would send to the Qover system to be able to fetch back a price. And on the left-hand side, we've made some of the fields and variables here editable for the sake of the demo. So here we can already see a few interesting things, which is product configuration ID. As Romu mentioned, at Qover, the product configuration is going to include all of the information that was previously described. So coverages, underwriting criteria, rules, taxes, commissions, pricing, the subject, so what is insured, document the feature, etc., etc. And all of this is configuration based. No development or deployment is required to push or update this configuration. And Sharon mentioned a change in local regulations in Belgium recently. So, for example, if there was a change of tax rate in France for travel insurance, we would just have to go and update the configuration file. What's also interesting here to note and to bounce back on the Trinity concept, here we see that this product configuration ID is linked to a partner ID and linked to a country. So this means that for this given product, we could apply it to a different partner. At Qover, this is how we are able to scale our business because we can take a product and then launch it with multiple partners. But from a partner perspective, we could use the same product configuration and have it for France, have it for UK, have it for Spain, Italy, etc., etc. And this is how we enable partners to really scale their insurance operations. So if we go through the payload of this request, so this is the request to create a quote and have a price. For a partner that has multiple countries, the main integration effort to account for differences in countries is actually going to be mostly based in this JSON payload, and the content of this JSON payload is going to slightly differ depending on the differences that are between France and the UK, and there's several blocks, and all of these blocks are flexible. So the main block here is policyholder. This is going to be quite consistent across geographies. Sometimes maybe the phone number is going to be optional and we will not ask for it. There's the country and language. Here we have decoupled country and language. In France, it's simple. Everybody speaks French. But in Belgium, there's 3 main official languages. So you have to differentiate between Flemish-speaking people from French-speaking people. And then there's also some German people out there, German-speaking people. And when we issue documents, we need to issue them in the correct language for the same country. Then there's the subject. Here, the subject is relatively straightforward. We are insuring a trip. So what I've configured it to be is like to choose between different zones and to choose between different family types. But this is going to really differ depending on the insurance product. And if you look at the subject object for motor insurance, it's going to be quite a lot of information about the vehicle, driving habits, etc., etc. There is the contract period. And as Romu did dive, there's the package. Here we kept it simple. I created 3 different packages. So there is the plus, there is the basic, and there's the premium. And we've made it really simple where all of the packages have the same different coverages, and only the variance, the level of coverage for these individual coverages is going to change. And I will show some differences with the UK just later on. So I'm going to hit this API call, and this is the response. So on the right-hand side is what we would return to the partner when they call our API. And there's a lot of valuable information in there about premium, about commission, about discount, taxes, deductibles, etc., etc. And all of these parameters are detailed both at an aggregate level. So the overall tax for my contract is this much, and also the coverage level. And the reason is, of course, regulation. Some jurisdictions would require insurer to break down premium for tax purposes, leading to different effective tax rates depending on the component. And as Romy mentioned, for example, on a NTPL, there's going to be different coverages that have different levels of taxes. So the response is quite lengthy, but don't worry, it's actually quite simple, and we'll go through some of the fields together now. So first, we can start with taxes. So in France, we can see that the IPT is 9%. So it's quite consistent across all coverages. So this is the cancellation coverage, and the IPT is 0.25. So this is per coverage. And if I look at the aggregates, I have 0.73 because I only have 3 coverages. So that's the total. And this is really important to be able to have those differences and manage those at the coverage level. We gave the example of motor insurance. I also really like to give the example of the terrorist tax, which is quite a barbaric name, but for something that is actually really good. So it's a tax in France. It's a compulsory annual contribution that is set by the French government to guarantee funds for victims of acts of terrorism. And this tax is different from IPT, right? It's an absolute value. It is not refundable, and it's collected at the first installment of the contract. So not only do you have to account for different tax levels, you also have to account for different tax behaviors, because this is really behaving differently from an IPT. And it not only does it have an impact at the distribution level, but it's also going to impact your life cycle, because this tax is not refundable. So it's not, if there is a contract cancellation, you will have to refund all of the taxes except this one. So now we can go into the coverages. So there's the cancellation, there's the assistance, and there is the medical expense. We see that these different coverages have different risk carriers. So typically cancellation is risk carrier X, medical expense is risk carrier X, but assistance is going to be risk carrier Y, because those at the claim level, they are going to behave again differently. Cancellation or luggage is evidence-based claims, whilst assistance is 24/7. So those are typically handled through different risk carriers and providers, and we are able to bundle them into one package altogether. So you're starting to get it. Everything is going to be defined at the coverage level. The deductible is another example. Here I set a really absurdly high deductible level at 1,000, just to show you that we can be super flexible, and this other one is set to 100. So the API call was for the plus package, but we are actually returning all of the different packages. So here, this is the basic, and I also have the premium somewhere. There it is. And the reason we are doing that is because we want to avoid partners running multiple API calls in parallel to fetch 3 different packages. So that's just simpler, and that's the approach we took from a configuration perspective. And the same way that taxes, commissions, deductibles, limits are set on a coverage level, so are commissions. And here I decided to set the cancellation commission to 0, just as an example. But there could be marketing reasons behind it. For example, if we have an optional coverage that the partner is really pushing for from a marketing perspective, Qover could make the effort of reducing its commission on this given commission. And this is how we are flexible in the way that we approach pricing in live deals, as well as being able to adapt to current market conditions. So this was for France, and I'm now gonna switch to the UK quickly. So this is the same endpoint. We're creating a policies, same product configuration, same partner ID. And the only thing that is going to change is, obviously, I live in the UK now, so I have a new address. I am based in the UK and I speak English. And we already see here that the UK has actually more coverages in the same package. So in addition to cancellation, assistance, and medical expenses, I'll now have a baggage coverage and a winter sports coverage. So I'm going to hit the API now. There you go. And here again, we created an override so that based on the French configuration, we have exactly the same. So it's same pricing engine, same underwriting rules, but actually, hey, it's the UK, so the IPT is different here. So if I look at the IPT for the same coverage, we see that it's 0.49 because the IPT in the UK is 20%, and the France tax was actually 0.25 per coverage. We added a few coverages, so winter sports, which has a risk carrier X, and also we have another risk carrier on the baggage coverage, so risk carrier Z. So this means that, again, we are super flexible in the way that we can work with multiple providers to really create and end up with the most relevant insurance product for a given country. And I will finish with the commission. We are, again, super flexible. And in the French configuration, I only had commission for Qover, and I had commission for the partner. And here we see that there's a third commission, which is actually an agent. So maybe in the UK, Air France will be distributing insurance through physical travel agencies, and they want to reward those agents for pushing travel insurance. And then we can actually have a dedicated commission for agents, and we are able to track which agent distributed or pushed which insurance. And to make it even more deep, here we see that the agent commission is super tiny. Not that they don't deserve a higher commission, but I only apply the commission on a given coverage, as opposed to the partner commission, who is on all the contract, and the Qover one, same. So this was to create a quote, and then we can bind this quote. So the reason we have this staged approach is that quotes have their own life cycle in the Qover environment. So if someone is going to generate a quote, this is going to be saved in our environment, and we'll have a trace of it, and it's going to live in our system for as long as the local regulation defines it. And now if I turn into our back office, this is where we have the list of the draft. So this is a draft that was not converted. And because we store this data, we are able then to run business analysis onto which quotes are converting better than others, and just driving business value from all this data. And if I jump to the policies, so these are the contracts that I created before this webinar, and we can see that they are pending because the contract period starts tomorrow. So this contract will be activated tomorrow. And I just wanted to finish this with showing you an interface because I've gone through the JSON payload, but of course, all of this payload is also available in our system in an interface where people can take actions, cancel, endorse. And again, the cycle is complete because all of these cancellation actions are going to be defined depending on the product configuration.